Roma and welcome to my kitchen. And today we've had a significant drop in temperature. We get this nice fog that rolls in, and so it is officially fall here in Southern California. It's late October, and this is our go-to family fall favorite soup. It is my Mexican. It's an Albondiga meatball soup. We call it Albondigas. And it's my twist on my husband's family's recipe. I learned how to make it from his mom, and then I changed it up to make it my own. There's so many different renditions of Albondigas out there, but this is the one that I make. And it's a family tradition in the sense that we always make it on Halloween. I'm making it now for you today, but we always make it on Halloween because the kids would always gobble it up before they'd go out and get sick on candy, because it's good to have a little stick to your ribs meal before you send the kids out the door for trick-or-treating, because as you know, they just start to wolf it down as it gets in their little pillowcases. So I'm gonna make this soup for you today. It's just a really great fall go-to soup. I always have a pot of it in the fridge. It's great for lunches and dinners, and you just heat up those tortillas, and it is a stick to your ribs meal that I hope becomes your family favorite too. Okay, so these are all of the ingredients that I use in my Albondigas meatball soup. You've got olive oil, you've got salt and pepper, you can use cartons of chicken broth, but I prefer this chicken base because you can make a lot more. You get a lot more for your money and a lot less waste. You've got 2 leeks, 2 yellow onions, I like these rainbow carrots. I love getting those colors into the soup. It's just so beautiful for fall. And then for the meatballs, you've got grass-fed beef, you've got ground turkey, and you've got fresh ground pork. You're gonna add some cumin, some salt and pepper, and then you're gonna add some mint into that as well. That's a key spice that goes in there to add some flavor to the meatball. And then we're gonna add in some jasmine rice into the meatballs. So these are your ingredients for the meatballs. These are your ingredients for the soup base. So now that you see all the ingredients that I'm gonna use, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to chop up both of the onions. I'm gonna put them into little bite-sized pieces. They'll just be floating around in the soup, but they'll add to a nice thick soup stock. And you're gonna just slice them how I'm doing it, or however you like to slice it. And they're going to go into this bowl. We're gonna do the same with the next onion. I like to use sweet Maui onions if I can find them. I can usually find them at the market, but if you can't, a yellow onion is just fine, or even a red if you don't have yellow onions. Just whatever they have in season at your market. Next, I'm gonna take the leek, and I'm gonna slice the leek. I love leeks. They're really great in all sorts of soups, especially my Guinness stew, which I'll have to make for you next. So I take the leeks and I add them with the white onion. And leeks, are... So now we're gonna add enough olive oil to coat the bottom of your pot. No matter how big your pot is, just put some in there to coat the bottom. I usually pick it up and swirl it around so I know that every inch has been covered. I'm gonna add my onions and my leeks. I'm just gonna let these saute in the pan so that they get nice and brown. And while they're browning up, I can prepare my vegetables that are gonna go into the broth once we make that chicken broth. But just stir these around, the onions and leeks. If you love leeks, you could always add a 3rd leek. I love leeks. I have not successfully grown leeks in my yard, but I'm still working on it. Onions I can grow easily. Leeks are a little more finicky. So now that we have the leeks and the onions in the pan, now we're gonna chop up the carrots. And I love, love, love rainbow carrots because I love the dark red carrots. They add a beautiful color to your soup stock. Now, in this particular case, I'm using 2 bunches of carrots because these are tiny, tiny carrots. They're very thin, as you can see. I usually just use 1 big bunch of carrots, but in this particular recipe, I bought 2 just because they were so small in size, which to me means they're probably out of season, or these were just very young carrots that were picked. So anyway, just you're just going to peel them, and then you're going to chop all of them up, and you want them to be in equal little pieces so that they all cook the same in the soup stock. I love the white ones too. They're just so pretty. And I love on the inside of the red ones how they have that beautiful yellow. It's almost like a sunflower face on the inside. They're just so pretty. Can you tell I love rainbow carrots? I could talk about these carrots all day long. Anyway, well, I geek out on rainbow carrots. All right, so this was the second bunch that I added in. But like I said, I normally just cook with one bunch, which is sufficient. If you don't have rainbow carrots in your region, wherever you live, a bunch of yellow carrots is fine, or loose carrots. I'd probably do about 6 large loose carrots. So you're going to put those in a pot. And then I like to buy celery hearts. So you're just going to chop off the discards on the end, and you're going to chop up the celery. And there's usually 2 bunches that come in a bag of celery hearts. So that's the first one down. And here's the second one down. You just cut off the ends and chop these up, and you're going to add them into your carrot mixture. And it's so pretty. Just look at all those vibrant colors. I just love it. And then just get your hands in there and mix them up. Oh, one of my carrots got away. That's the thing with cooking with carrots. They tend to roll off, but fortunately, Ben found it, and it's a new toy. He's not quite sure what to do with it. He's still a puppy, so do I play with it? Do I eat it? What do I do? So this is better than bouillon, and it's 1 teaspoon to 8 ounces of water. So I have 32 ounces of water here, and we're going to do 64 ounces in this big pot. So this water is boiling. I used my Instant Hot. So we're going to do 4 of those. And this is just an easier way than wasting all those cartons of bouillon. And we're going to stir this up before we put it in. So now we've made 32 ounces of bouillon with 4 teaspoons of better than bouillon. Okay, now show the onions. Now that you've made your chicken bouillon, you pour it into the onion mixture with the oil, and look at that. Now you can use 32-ounce boxes of chicken broth, but I just find it's a little wasteful. So now you're going to add your onions, not your onions, you're going to add your celery and your carrots into that beautiful broth that you've just made. Look at that. And those red carrots are just going to give the soup a lovely color. All right, now on to the meat. I use a turkey, a ground turkey. I use grass-fed beef, and I use a pork. There's the pork, and I add all 3 of those meats. Now, if you don't want to have red meat in there, you don't have to. You could just double up the turkey. And then you've got to make sure you've got mint, because mint adds such a great flavor to the meatballs. And your cumin, you can never have too much cumin in your Mexican meatballs. They add such a delicious flavor. Next, you're going to add the rice to the meatballs, and the rice will add a very nice soupy texture. It'll thicken up the soup. It'll stay in the meatballs, but the next day when it's in the fridge, you'll notice that there's be a lot of rice floating around in the soup, and it just adds a nice thickening texture. So just get your hands in there. You really need to use your hands to get it all incorporated. And you've got all of your spices, and you just want to keep squishing it with your hands until you form a very nice piece of meat that you can tell there aren't big pockets of spices or areas of your onion powder that you put in there, or your garlic powder, or your cumin. So just keep doing it. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes to get all of the ingredients incorporated. And if you try to do it with a spoon, I'm telling you, you're going to have pockets of a spice that when you bite into a meatball, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, what happened here? So definitely use your hands to get in and knead it like you're kneading bread. You just want to incorporate all those spices. So, yeah, you'll see at the bottom what I do is I just keep turning the mound around, because you'll get a lot of the rice that will just sit on the bottom because rice is heavy. And you want to make sure all of that rice is incorporated into the meatballs. So I usually keep swishing it around in there until that happens. And then next up, you're going to make your meatballs, and you want them to be all uniform in size. They can be tiny, they can be large, but I do like a medium-sized meatball. And you've got 3 pounds of meat, so the meatballs do take a bit of time, but let me tell you, it is totally worth the effort. Now I'm adding the second cup of 32 ounces of liquid. You're going to have 64 ounces of broth in this total. So however you want to do it, you can use the Better Than Bouillon or the boxed cartons. Either works. Now you're going to add all of your meatballs to the soup. This is my favorite part, because now I know that all of my hard work is done. Now just give it a quick stir with your spoon, not too rough because they're tender little meatballs. Hello, my friends. This here is my secret ingredient to my Albondigas. And how did I stumble upon this secret ingredient, might you ask? Well, I was out of tomato paste once when I was making it, which the original recipe called for. And so what do you do when you're in your kitchen? You improvise. So I grabbed it out of the fridge and I thought, let's give it a whirl. They loved it. They asked me that night, what's so different about this soup? It tastes amazing. And I said, nothing really. Just a couple things I found in the fridge. So this is it. 2 big squirts of this. Don't tell my mother-in-law. Now back to the meatballs. And look at that. We're ready for the secret ingredient. 2 nice big squirts of ketchup. It adds the sweet and savory all at one time and gives it such a nice color. Now it's been simmering about 30 minutes, so it should be ready. But you might want to do a meatball taste test where you just take one of the meatballs, cut it in half, and just test it. If it's crunchy, then you know it's not ready and you need to cook it for about another 10 minutes. You want the rice to be completely soft that you can't even taste that you're biting into it. So now you've got a great hearty soup. You've got your carrots, your celery, your onion, and the meatballs filled with your spices and the jasmine rice. Now, when you put it in the fridge, the next day, it's even better because some of that rice comes out of the meatballs and makes it a thickening agent. So next up, I roll up some tortillas with some Kerrygold butter. I just put them over a flame, make them a little crunchy, and serve these alongside of our Albondigas. We never eat Albondigas without our tortillas. Look at that rich, hearty soup. And check out the meatball. Well, here we are, my finished Albondigas soup. And as you can see, it's got that beautiful fall color to it from the ketchup. So let's take a bite. And also, you can see from all of the rice in the meatballs how it thickens that soup up. So it's a really nice comfort food, stick to your ribs kind of meal. Here goes. So delicious, so full of flavor. I hope you try this recipe. Leave your comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know what you think. Thanks for joining me today. To get my recipe, click the link below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash that bell for future updates.